Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. And the new line grind starts. It begins. Now, we have decided to go for the NC70 for my next grind on my free-to-play account. Now, I started grinding this, and then I was looking at other tier 10s thinking, why didn't I just start grinding that? But the fact that I haven't grinded this on my main account was the big factor for me doing it on my free-to-play account, because at least I can review each tank as we go along as well. So I'm not just playing it on my main account, skipping the whole line, getting the tier 10. I've actually got to grind the whole line. Kind of. So we're going to be obviously talking about the SDP40. Now, with new lines, when you are grinding new lines, of course you start off lower tier. Most of the time you're probably going to start off with tier 4, tier 5, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with this line. So I have started with the tier 5. The only thing with the tier 5, it sort of branches off. So you can't go from tier 4 to tier 5. You've actually got to go from tier 4 Lago up to the Sevamenti, and then again down to the STP. Then you can go across. So that's slightly annoying that you've got to grind a tier 5 to then unlock another tier 5. So when you're grinding a line, that is actually very, very annoying. Now, the tank itself, I mean, we're talking about tier 5 tanks, tier 6 tanks. They don't really get exciting usually. Sometimes tier 7, other times sort of tier 8. So the grind itself is normally, a lot of the grinds are actually quite boring, but there is ways around that. Of course, there is ways so you don't have to play it as often. But let's talk about the tank. So the tank is not bad. It's a tier 5 tank. Now, another thing that I get really disappointed at, now the line from I think it's tier 8, tier 9, tier 10, have the new mechanic where the closer you are, the more damage that you do. I don't understand why Wargaming don't introduce that for the whole line. Like, it's unique for the tech tree. Why not just bring it in from tier 5 onwards? Like, it doesn't mean it's going to be overpowered. And the reason I say that is because you grind a new line, especially say newer players, they'll grind the tier 5, the tier 6, the tier 7. They'll get used to playing it a certain way. And then all of a sudden, when it really matters, the gameplay changes. And this line is a classic example of that, because the tier 5, the tier 6, the tier 7, they are all sit at the back tanks. You know, they can sit at the back. They're TDs. There's no reason why you can't sit at the back of the map and snipe, because that is what these tanks really are about. And then you get to tier 8 and people kind of excuse me, carry on that gameplay, but then you actually lose out because you're getting less alpha. So I don't understand why Wargaming, when they introduce these new mechanics for a certain tech tree, just do it for the whole tech tree, do it for the whole line. You know, if you think it's going to be overpowered, then nerf it in other ways. So that's very frustrating, because again, they do have completely different play styles. So the SDP40, your armor is nothing special. However, the upper plate is okay. When you're coming up against sort of tier 4s and tier 5s, then you can get quite a lot of bounces, especially on the upper plate. Other than that, yeah, it's weak. It is quite weak. Your DPM is 1427. That is a 9.46 second reload. Your penetration is 143 on your AP, 178 on your APCR, 49 on your HE. You do have a 225 alpha gun, 190 on your premium, and 270 on your HE. Your aim time is terrible at 4.6, the same as your gun dispersion, 0.369. You do only have 6 degrees of gun depression with a top speed of 36 kilometers per hour. Now, we don't have any, let's just see what we do have. Gameplay wise, I haven't come up against tier 4 at the moment. I've only played it a couple of times, however. But like I always say, when you are grinding the lines, you don't really want to play these lower tiers too much. Like, you want to get to the higher tier as quickly as you possibly can, because they are boring, you know, at least until you get to the tier 7, tier 8, the tier 4s, or even the tier 3s, the tier 2s, the tier 5s. I mean, look at the armor profile there. Coming up against it, you know, you can see it is actually quite strong when it comes to your upper plate. However, your lower plate is quite weak. I mean, look how strong that upper plate actually looks, and that's on kind of flat ground. It's the lower plate that is the issue, but luckily I do have a little bit of help from my team, and we do manage to take that guy out. So yeah, like I said, you don't want to be playing these tanks for mega long. Now that's where I'd always recommend to save your free XP. So I've managed to save enough free XP. To be fair, I didn't actually have a lot of free XP, and I didn't even have enough to get all the modules. So I didn't play the tank until I had enough for at least the modules, because the worst thing I want to do is to play a tier 5 tank up against tier 6s with stock gun, stock track, stock engine. That is for me a big no-no. I always try to have the right amount of free XP to get these modules straight away, and if I don't play the tank. Like, period. I go and play a different tank, preferably a premium tank in tier 10, have a bit of fun, keep my damage up, and then once I have enough free XP, I will then get the modules, and then of course I can play it. And then I very rarely use free XP to get the next tank. So I could be 10,000 XP away from getting the next tank. I would just play that tank until I have enough XP. And if you're bored of the tank already and you don't really want to play the tank, then yeah, you can, I suppose, go and play a premium tank to earn a more free XP. And in that sense, then you want enough free XP to get the tank plus the modules. But really, I like to get the tank with the normal XP and then save your free XP, because once you get to higher tiers, it does become a lot harder and you will need a lot more free XP to get the modules. So, I mean, decent game there, 2,300 damage. In tier 5, that is actually pretty solid, but a lot of people were playing the tank and it wasn't enough for a mastery badge. It was actually only enough for a first class. So where I say how you can play these tanks for the less amount of time, of course there is such thing as a special game mode, and I've actually been playing this a lot, not only just for the event, but even for a tank like this. Yes, it is only tier 5, it's nothing special, but you're gaining XP. It's not going towards your stats. The tank feels a lot better because of course you go a lot quicker, yeah, and you're having fun with it. Like, even playing tier 5, I was actually having fun playing with this tier 5. And just the beginning of this game, you know, I'm coming up against some tier 6 tanks here. I'm basically on my own against 2 tanks, one tier 5, one tier 6, and because it's a special game mode, I do manage to just somehow stay alive. So yeah, honestly guys, these special game modes are an absolute must if you don't want to play many battles. Like, you can play this tank stock if you don't have enough free XP, but yeah, you're gonna become worse off because you're coming up against tier 6s with a shit gun basically. So if you don't have enough free XP and you don't have premium tanks or anything like that, then just take the tank. As long as it's tier 5 or above, just take the tank in a special game mode, because then it doesn't matter. You can play the tank stock because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't go towards your stats, and yeah, you can actually grind a lot quicker, especially if it's a mode like this or mad games or anything like that, because sometimes you last a lot longer, you do a lot more damage as well, and it does really help towards your free XP or your normal base XP. So I would strongly recommend these fun game modes to help you grind the whole line. Doesn't just have to be tier 5. Once you get the tier 6, yes, like I said, I'm going to play the tank until I have enough for the tier 6. But then once I get the tier 6, which is what I'm going to show you here, once I have enough for my tier 6, yes, I don't want that offer. So you can see here now, I have 30,000 free XP. I have 11,000 XP. To get the tier 10, I need 25,000 XP, which isn't a lot, you know. Sometimes you're gaining 1,000, 2,000 per battle, so it's not a lot. Then once I get 25,000 XP to get the next tank, for one, I may not even have the credits to get the tank, but once I do unlock that, I usually sell the tier 5 just to get your credits. But then if you look here, I need 20,000 XP for the gun, 7,000 for the engine, and 6,000. That's like 33,000 free XP. I've got 30. So hopefully by the time that I earn enough XP to get the tier 6, I should have enough free XP to get all the modules. Then I can actually play it in a normal game mode. If I then get bored of the tank, I will just head over to my fun game modes to get the enough XP to get the next tank, and it's rolling. It's then the same moving up the tiers. But of course, the further you go, the longer it will take. So that is let's just have a look how many battles I've actually played. I haven't played a lot because I've been playing, 5. I've got 5 battles and I've still got 11,000 XP. But, you know, that's just normal battles. So it's easily done. And sometimes I do, you know, it's too easy sometimes, especially for the new players. Sometimes they can grind the line a lot too quicker than they should. But, you know, it is what it is. I like to play fun game modes just to, not because I enjoy it as much, but really to grind a line. That is all I do, especially when you get to tiers like tier 9, when you want the tier 10 gun. Like a stock Leopard PTA absolutely sucks. So you don't want to come up against tier 10s. So what I do, take it out as stock in a fun game mode just to get enough XP. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But for now, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm meadsy69 and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.